Welcome to Dark Horizon Creations. I'm Mike, and this time we're taking a look at the Star Wars, the Black Series Mandalorian Death Watch helmet. Now, if you hadn't already, please follow, like, and subscribe to my social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you get a notification of when I post new content. Since their release in 2015, the Star Wars The Black Series helmet collection has been wildly popular with Star Wars collectors and fans around the world. I would have to say, out of all of the helmets that have been released to date, the Mandalorian Death Watch is one of the most sought after and highly prized of the Black Series helmets. The helmet is still available at retail as it is a GameStop exclusive for $119 here in the US. It is already going for nearly 3 times that on eBay. And of course, some of those individuals are scalpers attempting to capitalize on the lack of availability in local GameStop stores. I purchased mine online through GameStop.com last week for the MSRP of $119. They gave me a discount, so I ended up paying $107 for the helmet before taxes. And I have to say, it's one of the nicest Black Series helmets that's out there. It's a slight remold and repaint of the Boba Fett prototype helmet. There are some differences between the two. The primary difference being around the face shield and the top of the helmet. If you have the prototype helmet, you know that there's some rough areas around it where it almost looks like the plastic is going to flake off. You won't find that on the Death Watch helmet. Extremely smooth surface, really nice paint apps. And the rangefinder is really nice on it. It seems to be a retool of the original rangefinder as well. So all the way around, this is a really, really nice collectible. So if you're watching this video and you don't know much about the Death Watch and who they are, the Death Watch were a splinter group of Mandalorians. And they essentially began as a group who followed the old ways of Mandalore. They wanted to continue traveling throughout the galaxy as raiders and things of that nature. You could sort of think of them as the Vikings of the Star Wars universe. After the Mandalorian Civil War, the remnants of the Death Watch were expelled to the Mandalorian moon of Concordia, and they were thought to have died out. And essentially, they had hidden and were regrouping under the leadership of Pre Vizsla and Duchess Satele Kryze. And they returned to Mandalore and challenged the pacifist government there. And eventually what occurs is that the Death Watch come up against Darth Maul. And Maul is operating a group called the Shadow Collective, and he ends up killing Pre Vizsla and stealing the Darksaber. He takes it from him after his death, and whoever wields the Darksaber, of course, rules Mandalore. So for a time, Darth Maul rules Mandalore. The Death Watch turned from being a splinter terrorist faction to being the Mandalorian resistance movement, if you could consider them that, where they are led by Duchess Kryze's sister, Bo-Katan. And by the time you see the events in the live-action series, The Mandalorian, which occurs 5 years after Return of the Jedi, Bo-Katan is seeking the Darksaber to return to Mandalore and reestablish her family's rule over the planet and to restore the Mandalorians. Boba Fett, of course, once he hears that, laughs and thinks that's the craziest thing that he's ever heard of because Mandalore was glassed by the Empire. So apparently at some point, the Mandalorians resisted the rule of the Empire as well. And they're just essentially scattered throughout the galaxy, living underground, in hiding, coming out in groups of 2 or 3, and some are just traveling on their own throughout the galaxy. And if you recall, in season 1 of The Mandalorian, we see a flashback scene of Din Djarin being rescued by Death Watch Mandalorian super commandos during the Clone Wars. And that's actually rewritten canon because previously the Death Watch aligned themselves with Darth Tyrannus and the Confederacy, and we're fighting against the Republic. So there's different stories in there, and it just depends on which canon that you follow, whether it's the Legends canon or if it's the current Disney canon. Both of them are similar, but there are variations in their historical accuracy. So for all intents and purposes, the Death Watch are super commandos. You know, they are Mandalorian loyalists who want to restore the old ways of Mandalore. During the Mandalorian Civil War, when they were fighting the government believed that Mandalorians should be honorable and respectable. You know, essentially they were paid mercenaries who traveled around the galaxy and offering their services for money. And really, that's what Boba Fett and his father before him, Jango Fett, were doing. You know, they were following the old ways. Of course, they were, bounty hunters, but they were much more than that. And a lot of their history is intertwined in the history that we find in the Clone Wars TV series, the things that are talked about there. So it's really fascinating. There's a lot of history to these different factions in the Star Wars universe. And, you know, traditionally I prefer the Legends canon over the current Disney canon, but it's really fascinating to study the history and the government behind the different races and things in Star Wars, because that's what makes the story so interesting. And the Death Watch seem to have evolved into this resistance movement that is loyal to the Mandalorian ways. And Din Djarin, of course, being rescued by them, is raised by Death Watch Mandalorians. So he takes their code. And there's a whole separate storyline that goes into the Super Commando Codex and things like that that they live by. So it's very fascinating. You know, I encourage you, if you don't know anything about it, that you go and study both the Legends and the current canon so that you can understand both and take away from that the history of the Mandalorian. So when you see this, you know, it's not just a collectible that you have on your shelf. You know, you can know the history behind it. So really awesome packaging. I like how they've changed the shape of the box. Of course, your product displays. You have your artwork here on the side of Mandalorian Super Commandos. Here's a side elevation shot of the helmet. Here's a shot on the back showing the features, you know, the LED lights on the rangefinder and things like that. And then schematic down here of the helmet itself. And then another shot back here. Really, really awesome. I love the design of the packaging. Here is the Mandalorian Death Watch helmet outside of the packaging. And as you can see, this thing is phenomenal. It is beautiful. There are so many different colors in this helmet, all the way around. There's your vent on the back. Battery compartments here. It takes a single AAA battery to operate. Your activation switch for the rangefinder. Of course, your visor. Here's the inside of the helmet, identical to the Boba Fett prototype helmet. If you guys are looking for a better fit than this adjustable strap, you could remove that and use the insert pads that go inside military helmets. You can purchase those online from Amazon, and they're a better fit to put in here, because there's various sizes, and they'll keep the helmet from bouncing around from side to side once you put it on. But there's just so much detail in here, all the way around. Tremendous detail in the helmet. And I'll take it and try and put it over the camera so you guys can see what it's like with it on. Really cool. And for the rangefinder, you've got a sliding panel right here that you can remove and take off. And it only activates once you press the button, but it flips down. And you guys can see what the rangefinder looks like. And once you flip it back up, it deactivates it. And for those of you that like to cosplay and take pictures, this is awesome. You know, I don't know if the 501st and Mandalorian Mercs and all those guys recognize Black Series helmets for their groups because they have such stringent requirements. But for collectors and just everyday cosplay and you just want to take pictures, this is awesome. Really, really incredible. I like the battle damage and the weathering that they've put in here. It's just a really, really nice helmet. And it's well worth the money, I'll tell you that. And if you haven't ordered one already, you can get it on GameStop for $119 here in the US. I don't know what the cost is in Canada, and I do not know if it's available through GameStop in other countries. I don't know. I don't know if they have GameStop in other countries, to be honest with you. You know, some of you may have to buy it from someone on eBay that will ship internationally. I hope you don't, but if that's the case, then, you know, try to find someone that's selling it at a reasonable cost. So guys, there you have the Star Wars, the Black Series Mandalorian Death Watch helmet.